If you're someone who has a million interests, a million ideas, and you cannot figure out which one to focus on, what I'm about to say might piss you off, because being multi-passionate is not a personality trait or a strength. It's a distraction. In my business, I've worked with so many successful people, and what they all have in common, like Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett, is that they didn't split their attention on different interests. They went all in on just one thing. So if this is something that you're struggling with, here is how you pick your one thing. The first step is to see why being multi-passionate is not a strength. If we compare people who are jack of all trades to specialists, specialists actually earn 15 to 30% more than generalists across virtually every industry. In medicine, specialists average $404,000 a year, while general practitioners average $287,000 a year. You see, the truth is, the more focused the expertise, the more the market pays for it. And that's true whether you're a doctor, a consultant, an operator, or content creator. And having multiple interests is really just multiple distractions. A University of California study found that it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully refocus after one single distraction. Multiply that by 5 different interests that you're juggling on any given day. You're not truly able to be productive when you're across multiple areas because you're context switching between things that you're mediocre at. But what a lot of people get wrong is the connection between passion and career success. Cal Newport spent years studying at Georgetown what actually drives career success, and his conclusion is that passion is a byproduct of mastery. It's not a prerequisite for it. You don't follow your passion to find your career. You get exceptionally good at one thing, and then you become passionate about it. Self-determination theory, one of the most validated frameworks in psychology, says that motivation requires competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Pre-existing passion, not on the list, but competence is. And you can't build competence by dabbling in 7 things at once. And while you might see so much information online about people telling you to embrace being multi-passionate, they're usually selling you a course, not giving you the best career advice. So if you do identify as someone who has multiple passions, interests, and skills, then do this audit with me. Write down every interest, project, and idea you are currently splitting your attention between. Next to each one of them, write how many hours per week you actually give it. And then ask yourself this question honestly: is any one of these things getting focused attention to produce real results? This list you just made is actually your list of problems and distractions. And next, we're gonna work on solving them. Step 2 is getting honest about the famous success stories and finally realizing they are all actually stories about focus. Warren Buffett built his entire investment philosophy around what he calls the circle of competence. He said you only have to be able to evaluate companies within your circle of competence. And the size of that circle is not very important, but knowing its boundaries, however, is vital. He didn't diversify into tech, biotech, or crypto. He stayed in his lane for 60 years and is now worth $140 billion because of focusing on one thing. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple in 1997, the company was 90 days from bankruptcy. They had dozens of products sprawled across every category. And the first thing that he did was kill almost everything and narrow Apple down to 4 core products. He famously said, "People think that focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas." That decision took Apple from near bankruptcy to one of the most valuable companies in the world. And even Forbes reported on this pattern in 2019. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Jobs all attributed their success to one word, and it wasn't talent, timing, or luck. It was focus. What looks like an empire from the outside always started as a single, obsessive focus on one thing. And once you become an expert on that one thing, you can duplicate yourself to expand your knowledge. So if you're a business owner and you're a roofer or a plumber or a chiropractor or a physician, and you want to take the expertise that you have and be able to duplicate it across other people to be able to expand and grow your business, you should find me on Instagram and DM me duplicate for my duplication guide on how to take the very first steps from expanding yourself as an individual into your team across your business so that it can actually grow. One of the most important steps is to actually look at people in your industry who have had the level of success that you want. Go study what they were known for when they were at your stage, not where they're at right now. And when you start to look for success, it likely started happening for them early on because they narrowed down and started focusing on one single thing and becoming great at it. Now in step 3, we're evaluating the idea of passion and how passion does not create competence. Georgetown research shows that people become passionate about things they end up being good at, not things that they were drawn to before they developed any skill. That feeling of passion actually comes from mastery, from getting results, from building something that works. It doesn't just come from discovering a calling and riding it up to the top. Self-determination theory backs this up at the psychological level because sustainable motivation actually requires three things: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. You build competence by going deep on one thing long enough to actually get good at it. But you can't build competence by following a feeling across 7 different distractions and then waiting for one of them to stick. Passion is nice to have, but money is need to have. And passion can only take you so far before the reality of building something real requires skill, evidence, and results that have nothing to do with how excited you feel on Monday morning. The dangerous version of this advice is not the person who never finds their passion. It's the person who picks a direction purely on what excites them right now before they have any competence to back it up, and then quits when the excitement fades and the hard work begins. The excitement always fades. But what keeps people going is being competent, because that keeps you in the game long enough to build something real. And building something real is eventually what makes you love it. So stop asking yourself what you're passionate about and start actually looking at what you could realistically become the best at, given your current skills, your current access, and the gaps that exist in your market. Next up is step 4, which is how to actually find your lane to focus on. When I co-founded Cardone Ventures, the 2 people that I co-founded with already had solidified expertise that they were known for in the marketplace. So I had to find something else to focus on, even if it had nothing to do with what I was most excited about at the time. And so I didn't pick the lane that I wanted. I picked the lane that was open. And it turned out to be the best decision I've ever made. You see, my husband's lane was strategy and exits. He had just sold his last company for 77 times earnings. And my business partner Grant's lane was marketing, sales, and brand. He has built one of the most recognizable personal brands in business. Trying out strategy or out-marketing Grant would have been a waste of everyone's time, especially mine. But the people and operations lane was wide open. Hiring, training, developing teams, building culture, running the actual internal machine of scaling a company. Nobody was claiming that space. The problem was, it wasn't a super sexy lane. It was not the one that gets you the magazine covers, but it was open and it was needed. And it was something that I could go all in on without competing with either of my partners. And here's the honest version of what happened next. I didn't love it immediately. I was not passionate about HR frameworks when I started. I was focused on building something that worked. And so over years of doing it, getting results, watching systems produce outcomes at scale, the passion came. And now I could talk about hiring and operational leadership for hours, but that passion didn't come first. The results came first. The commitment came first. That lane has given me a genuine differentiator in a crowded space. When people think about scaling teams and operations, they think of me. I built a hiring process, training systems, and the culture framework that took Cardone Ventures past $250,000 just last year. And I did not need to compete with anyone there because I picked a lane that nobody wanted. Most people look for the most exciting lane, the most visible lane, or the lane that already has crowd as proof that it works. But the better question is, where is there a gap? Where is the problem that no one with real credentials is willing to solve? That is where you can create real ownership with the least competition. So visually map out your space in the way I mapped mine. Who are people already established in it? What are their lanes? Where is there a gap that they aren't filling? That gap is your entry point. It doesn't have to be the flashiest position. It has to be real, in demand, and wide open enough for you to build something that stands alone. Next up is step number 5, which is to stop splitting your focus. I worked with a dentist running a $2 million practice, solid revenue, stable patient base, and a team that was functioning. And then he decided that he had a passion for skiing and started a skiing parts business on the side because it was something that he loved. But the skiing business needed his time, attention, and capital, and the dental practice, the thing that actually produced income, started slipping. He wasn't present for his team. He was distracted in meetings. His best people actually started leaving because they could feel the shift. And the skiing business wasn't working either because he didn't know anything about running the skiing business. It was just a passion project. So what ended up happening? He had to give one of them up and learned a series of painful lessons, and then had to rebuild the dental business from a much lower starting point from where he began. And the worst part wasn't the financial damage. It was what happened to his team. They watched their leader choose a shiny object while their operation was deteriorating. And that kind of confidence, once it's broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. A study from the Academy of Management Journal gave a name to exactly what his team was experiencing: attention residue, which is when persistent thoughts about a side business affects the primary work and reduces the overall performance. You see, you can't fully show up for what you already have when part of your brain is literally somewhere else. And when you split your focus like that in two different areas, you have to realize that you are being watched by your customers, by your team members, and by your peers. And once a team has lost confidence in leadership, it is one of the single hardest things to recover. Forbes even stated in 2026 that entrepreneurs consistently underestimate how much planning and capital it takes to run two things simultaneously. So before you pursue any secondary interest, answer this question honestly. Is your primary interest running at the level where it can survive your attention being divided, not just financially, but also operationally? Ask yourself if it has the leadership that doesn't depend entirely upon you to be present every day. And if the answer is no, then splitting your focus with your current and new interests will just risk everything that you've already built. And finally, step 6 is to keep building in the lane that you chose. Step 1 is looking at what the market actually pays in your lane. What will people write real checks for? What problems need solving so bad that somebody will pay a premium for the person who solves them? And make sure your focus area is doing these things. The worst advice somebody could ever give you is to pick some problem that nobody has that you're inventing a solution to. There's no shortage of problems that people have. Solve existing problems. Don't make something up in order to invent something that nobody cares enough to spend money on. Step 2 is getting ridiculous stats. You can't just say you're an expert. You need evidence, which comes in the form of numbers, results, case studies. Before you build a platform around something, you need to be able to pinpoint measurable outcomes so that you can prove that you're qualified to talk about this. How many clients have you helped? What did they achieve? What is your track record? If you can't answer those questions with specifics, you're not going to be able to dominate in the lane that you've picked. And step number 3 is getting known for your expertise. Building a personal brand around your knowledge and your results is so easy now because social media exists. Content creation is there. There's this thing called the internet where you can proliferate who you are, why you do what you do, who you service, and the problems that you're solving. When someone asks what you do, there should always be one clear answer, not 15 answers, not some watered down version of what you do. You should be able to articulate what you do well and that you are uniquely positioned to solve that type of problem. It is vital to keep reminding yourself, especially when new interests pop up, that the people who are actually winning are the ones who go so deep on one thing, and that made them the money that brought them so much success that their other interests either didn't matter or they could be pursued later. So those were the 6 steps to create a winning career strategy even when you have multiple interests. If this resonated, check out my next video here.